I remember about 5 years ago being called in by an internal communications department for a very serious meeting. The serious meeting was that they were finding that their role was communications, both internal and external, only they hadn't realized they were meant to be in charge of internal communications until a few months earlier. And when they started investigating how they should be changing things internally, basically the HR department said, guys, we've been doing it for the last 2.5 years, back off. So there was a punch-up going on between HR and internal communications. And I won't name names because this is a household name in South Africa, but the communications people said, we are totally under threat from our HR department. Now, I hope things have moved on, because today, as you've heard this morning, we all need to be working together. We need to be aligned together. Otherwise, our competition will eat our lunch in any case. But this is where it's so important that both sides, if I can call it still that, must work together. So what is a brand? Come on, tell me, what's a brand? What comes to mind when you think of a brand, and what are they? It's not a name, a logo, an ad. So many people still talk about ads as the be-all and end-all, yet there are some people who actually never use ads. You talk about an identifying symbol, a word, a mark, something that's different, that distinguishes. Imagine going into, you can see it from the back, I think, just going into your supermarket, what is it, 35,000 different brands in the average supermarket? So brands are like signposts. They help you make decisions. And that's where, if you had my friend Alex Batchelor, who was Group Marketing Director of Orange for a time, who's from the North Country, would say, stuff, stuff, and more stuff. He said, you wouldn't know what you were stuffing about, would you? You've got to have the brands. That helps you stand out. And this is the world we live in. We've got brands all around us. We've got decisions to make all the time. How often do we say, we want our brand, and if that brand isn't there, we go somewhere else to find our brand? When we talk about a brand, we talk about the promises of a brand. And after all, many people are quick to make promises, the ads, whatever, but what are the verifications that that brand is going to deliver on that? And that's where we talk about a brand being a promise made and a promise kept. And that's the crucial thing, whether you're dealing with your own internal or external audiences. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Some people say, well, missions and visions and values, do you really need them? Is it a bit old hat? And I say, actually, you do. Now, look at Disney's. Making people happy. What could be simpler than that? To create magic moments in the lives of families across the world. And the values, no cynicism. Wholesome, enjoyable, fun, trusting. Now, when you've got a mantra like that, as we were hearing earlier, if you're going to make sure you employ people who can match that, it's a very clear message you're putting up, saying, are you one of these people? Because if you're not, we don't want you. No disrespect, you can go somewhere else. Looking at something like Avis, again, everything is clearly spelt out. And that's why I'm saying that whether you're dealing with your internal audiences or your external, you've got to know what you stand for. And these things can't chop and change too much. You've got to ensure that people are totally with you and working with you and on the same page exactly. So this is where we talk about brand. We talk about the various aspects of the brand, because you have the consumer and the consumer experience. You have the employees and the quality that goes through. You have the human resources and the management. And it's no point defining all your touch points of a brand if your colleagues, if your staff are not trained and working in the same direction. So we can talk about employee satisfaction or loyalty or productivity. You know this better than I'm sure in many ways. You measure it. If you can't measure it, you can't treasure it. And that applies to almost everything in life. You've got to make sure you put the metrics in place. This is one of the biggest parts of our world at the moment, creating scorecards. Often scorecards from the marketing department to show to the rest of the exco. So that the rest of the exco see those metrics and think, oh, we can relate to that, we understand it. So the employee often is the brand. I think we all want, especially in times like this, people who are positive, energetic, passionate, who are committed. Those are the people we want to work with, because 1 + 1 will equal 3 or 4 if we all work together. Looking at Virgin Active, and we were talking about this, so they're getting a free punt from me as well, but this is where they've got it all together. And Richard Branson is a fantastic ambassador to fun, David versus Goliath, as he likes to be known, and everything that he does. And there is the proof in the pudding. Again, when people are about to leave school and want to know where to work, a lot of people would say, I don't know, but I'll go and do a stint at McDonald's, or I'll go and do a stint at Virgin, and then I can think about things. So a recurring theme amongst top-performing companies is the importance of the CEO. And this is where, again, I don't know if you find in your jobs, how engaged is the CEO? How engaged is the ExCo? Are they supporting you? And I actually disagree with this slide slightly, because I think it doesn't stop at the CEO. It actually should go all the way up to the chairman or the chairwoman and the board of directors. After all, if they're the directors of your company, they need to be engaged as well. And this is where it's very interesting that you've got to have a seamlessness, top-down, bottom-up of what's going on. He's quite a famous guy in this land. Some of you will know Branch Pretorius. He became very famous when he was marketing director of Toyota, and he's been a director of companies, and he retired a year ago. He's now become a non-executive director of about 7 companies. And chatting to him over lunch a month or so ago, he said he insists that every single company takes him for about a week and orientates him. So he gets to know who the company is, what their strategy is. He travels around, he meets the people as well. So he has an understanding of that company and its culture. And that, to me, is crucial as well. So what is the brand culture? How does that work? So it's generated often through people, through their behaviors, through the social side. Look at the different electronic channels to market at the moment. We did a survey for the Sunday Times top brands about 2 months ago, and I wrote to about 50 marketing directors and asked them what they were linked to on the social side. I think only about 35% were on LinkedIn, but less were on Twitter and Facebook. And as someone said overseas, if a marketing director is not linked to at least Twitter and Facebook, they can't do their job. LinkedIn is for the professional peers they're dealing with, perhaps. It's for themselves. But if you want to know what the customers, the consumers are doing, you have to have a finger on the pulse. And this is free research, after all. You've got to monitor all the time. So you've got to have beliefs. You've got to have a language. Language, in Interbrand, we talk about tone of voice. And tone of voice is a pretty crucial thing. You know, some people, perhaps older people, might command, instruct, whereas younger people, perhaps more of a conversation. And that's where how you talk to people is absolutely crucial. And again, a lot of you in this room will know that you've got to talk to each other as equals, and that way you engage in the best way. So what are we talking about? Just to really try and sum up, we're talking about the beliefs. Have each of you got beliefs in your organization? Do you buy into them? Do you agree? What's the language? Do you have your own language? Do you have a language specific to your industry? And that's sometimes interesting. As an outsider, you go into a meeting and you start people bouncing around different terms and different figurations that throw you. The people and the behavior. Are you a person from a certain company? You know, the joke used to be about 30 years ago that if you worked for IBM, you wore a dark suit, you wore a blue tie, I think it was, black shoes. It was almost like a uniform, which I was admiring on the front here, a picture of Richard wearing a very nice tie in London. And I think ties are more expected in London. I know doing business up in Nairobi, the last time I wore a tie for 4 days in a row was in Nairobi. And this is where sometimes, you know, it used to be the ladies in the room who decide what are they going to wear before going to a meeting. I think the guys now suddenly become conscious. Do I need a jacket? Do I need a suit? Can I wear a tie? What sort of tie? What color? Suddenly everyone's becoming more sensitive to these things. And then at the end of the day, you have to pull everything together. And this isn't something that happens overnight. As we were hearing earlier, you can't say, well, I'm going to go from A to Z and plan it. You've got to be working all the time. People come and go. Yes, there is churn. What's the average length of a CMO in the United States? 22 months. That's all. So churn is going to happen. That's where the culture of the organization, the way things are done, the structures, they're the things that should live on and make sure that there is continuity. I think one of the best examples is Nike. If you go to Oregon, to their campus, the way everything is coordinated. Showing you earlier Disney, if anyone's been to Disney World, Disneyland, it is absolutely incredible how everything just fits together. And whether you're a brander or a marketer or not, it's the seamlessness of the whole offering. And this is where we talk about the nurturing of the strong culture, the consistency, understanding what a brand promises. It's not just marketing speak, it isn't gobbledygook. It's actually something that you all have to buy into and make sure works. And this is where, how far would you go in buying into your brand? Would you have tattoos put in intimate places? How far would you go? I see some pretty quizzical looks in the audience here. Perhaps you would say yes to an apple, but not to something else. I don't know. But this shows how loyal you can be and how committed you can be to the whole thing. So at the end of the day, we talk about commitment from every department ensures this continuity. So here I'm actually talking not just the two main departments represented in this room, but I'm talking about the whole organization. And that means often the whole organization has got to listen more and more to HR and marketing and say, come on guys, this is too big for just one department. Now I think it was Mr. Hewlett or Mr. Packard once famously said, marketing is too important to be left to the marketing department. And I'd say the same here about HR issues, marketing issues. Everyone has to pull together. Last slide, and no, that's not me. This is a chart from McGraw-Hill, which some of you will remember. Most of you won't, because it's probably too old. But it's the average salesman going in to see someone, and you have an awkward customer client who makes these sort of statements. Right, who are you? What's your company? What's your product? What do you stand for? What are your customers? What's your record? And what's your reputation? Now, can you answer all those questions off the top of your head of where you are? Often when we're doing workshops with excos of organizations, I put this chart up, and that gets the debate going. But sometimes we have fun and we change the visual. Imagine putting the visual in of someone, 21, 22, straight out of varsity, looking for a job, saying to the head of HR, who are you? I've got a choice of jobs here. And then you start thinking perhaps slightly differently. And I haven't even got on to green issues, sustainability, or all those good things. Hopefully we'll touch on those a little bit later on this afternoon. But at the end of the day, any organization to be sustainable has to have happy, committed employees who are going to stay with the company.
This video was developed by the CRF Institute